is back. Welcome to page 3. I'm Ellie.
I'm Sydney.
And I'm Afton.
Yeah!
Great to be back, guys.
We wanted to bring her on again, obviously, because it's so fun having you on the podcast and we love it. And then we also thought that it would be fun. We were kind of like oscillating between a bunch of different choices of like, should we talk about hobbies? Should we talk about different things? And then we decided that Afton would tell us stories about working in the healthcare field to 2 non-healthcare people. Yeah. And like what your experience is like being like young and in the healthcare field and, you know, just doing all the things and just like crazy stories that you've experienced.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sure you have some crazy things.
She has some crazy stories. So I'm going to pass the mic off to you and take it away with whatever you want to talk about. Like it could be like the mentalness, the burnout, whatever.
Yeah. I'll start with just some silly stories. And this idea really stems from in college, I lived with 2 other girls that were in the healthcare field and then one that was not. And we'd all come home and we'd sit and chat around the dinner table. And my one roommate, Sierra, would be like, what the hell are you guys talking about? When the rest of us would just be talking so casually. And sometimes I kind of forget that the things that I'm exposed to aren't necessarily normal and people don't usually see these things in their day-to-day lives. I will start with a story from one of this was my last day of orientation. So right after this, they were like, good luck, hon, you're on your own. I'm a CNA in the neuro ICU, so I see a lot of very intense things. And it's my last ever shift on orientation. One of the nurses was like, hey, hon, you want to be a doctor? Like, come look at this. And I was like, okay. And they shoved me back into the corner of this room behind this person's bed. And a nurse comes up to me and goes, whatever you do, don't pass out. I'm sitting there and I'm like, pass out. I've told them the story. I'm like, pass out? Wait, what do you mean pass out? They sorry, if you're a little squeamish, maybe fast forward.
We'll put a trigger warning in the caption at the beginning.
Okay. They take out a handheld drill and start drilling into this person's skull to release pressure from the fluid that was stuck in between, not stuck, there's always fluid, but the fluid that was in between their brain and their skull. There was too much pressure and they needed to relieve that. So he starts drilling away and I'm sitting there being like, don't pass out, don't pass out, don't pass out. Got a little too hyperfixated on the whole not passing out part. I was like, I'm going to let myself out of the room. Try to let myself out of the room, reach for the door handle, absolutely miss it. Blackout. Wake up in the hallway, nurses are around me being like, someone get her an apple juice, someone get her a pulse ox. I'm like, what's going on? What happened? And then I did have a little bit of a crash out of how the hell am I supposed to be a doctor if the very first procedure I see, I pass out. I have seen multiple. I've actually held the heads during it sometimes. So like, I'm good now. I've seen plenty of things. But it was a moment that kind of made me step back and just be like, wow, that's not normal. And right after this, as soon as I'm back on my feet and the nurses are comfortable with letting me walk around again, I have to take someone who had passed away down to the morgue. And it was me and one person who was on her first ever shift on orientation with the security guard. And we put the person in the freezer, slide their body over, door closes, won't open. I'm like, it's a very, very small room, stacked with dead bodies, very cold. And I'm sitting there like, is this seriously my life right now? And the security guard's sitting there futzing with the handle being like, oh, don't worry, guys. We're not stuck in here. I'm like, okay, then open the door. It was only for about a minute and 30 seconds, but it's a lot longer than you'd want to be locked in a freezer full of dead bodies. So I know.
Oh my God.
That was my first ever shift off orientation, or my last shift on orientation. And the next week, they were like, okay, good luck. You're on your own. So I definitely felt a little bit of anxiety starting this position, especially because I had never worked in healthcare in the past. I had only learned about it. So seeing all these crazy things and then just having them slap you in there, and yeah, it was really insane.
So for people that don't know, what is a CNA and like what are your rules and your protocols and all of those things and like what do you do like on your day-to-day basis?
In with that exact thing, can you also explain, I know there's a ton of departments at the hospital that you work at, and like when the CNAs get assigned, they get assigned to different units. So can you like loosely explain the concept of the neuro ICU? Okay, yeah.
So a CNA is a certified nursing assistant. You can be this in a nursing home, in a hospital, all different types of places. My job is a little bit unique because I would say the experiences I have in an ICU is a little bit different than a typical CNA, just because I don't get any vitals because all patients are on constant monitoring. I don't empty any of the drains, where on gen care units, they would be emptying those. So my responsibilities are a little different. A day in the life for me, Neuro ICU is, ICU stands for intensive care unit, and neuro is head stuff, spine stuff. So I get a lot of traumatic accidents. Like I've seen car accidents, motorcycle accidents, gunshot wounds. Otherwise, we'll get strokes, aneurysms, tumors, all sort of things like that. Anything that has to do with the brain or the spine will end up on my unit in my care. But a day in my life.
So wait, did I miss you explain what a CNA is? You're an assistant to
certified nursing assistant.
Okay.
So it's, you are responsible for, I don't really know how to explain this. Like a typical CNA is washing up patients, taking them to the bathroom, assisting with the little nursing tasks. Like you're a little baby nurse who doesn't have as much responsibility. So I can go and get blood sugars and empty out their Foley drains, walk them to the bathroom, get them washed up, make sure that they're turned and okay in bed. Just kind of the things that make nursing more efficient and makes nurses' days go by easier.
Also,
if that makes sense.
Is because you're, like, I'm assuming people on your unit know that you're going to med school and all this stuff. So even though your responsibilities are CNA responsibilities, the visibility you're getting to procedures and things like that, like, are they granting you more options to at least observe those things because they know you want to go to med school? Or do you think that's just the unit that you're in where you're seeing those things?
UW is a teaching hospital. So it's really nice because I feel as if a lot of people are always extending the opportunity to learn. And I think that it does help that I've been on the same unit for 3 years. All the nurses know who I am and they know that I want to be a doctor. So they're always offering up pieces of information. But I would say anyone who works here or works at any sort of teaching hospital, those experiences are there for you if you just ask.
That's really cool that they're willing to teach you, though. And
It's honestly been really amazing. The nurses there are great. Residents are also always down to chat. Med students will come onto my unit and I'll be like, "Hi guys, I want to be here."
That's so exciting. Oh yeah, I want you to go walk us through a day in life, and I also want you to tell us about, like, talk us through, like, what it's like being so young and working in the medical unit, and then also, like, how, because you've talked about it briefly, of like your experience with burnout and those things. So I think those are important topics.
Yeah, totally. So first, a day in my life would be, I get to work at 7 a.m. I'm a day shifter now. Thank the Lord. I don't do night shifts. Your girl needs her sleep. I'll get to work at 7 a.m. I'll get report. So the night shift will give me the lowdown on all the patients, if they need blood sugars, how they move, if they need to get washed up, all that kind of stuff. And around 8 a.m., every 2 hours, I will round for my nurses, go check in with them, see what they all need. And we'll turn patients every 2 hours. So being in an ICU, we have a lot of intubated and sedated people, which means they're not breathing for themselves. They have that intubation tube that's breathing for them. And a lot of skin breakdown can happen from people being in bed for prolonged periods of time. So just making sure that we're moving people, getting their limbs elevated, all those sorts of things. And then as a day shifter, my job is to get a lot of people washed up. So I do a lot of bed baths, sponge baths. Sometimes I throw them in the shower. It's really fun being in the neuro ICU because you have all different levels of people kind of being with it, you know? Some people are just standard post-ops and I get to chat with just a regular person that I would have never met in any other sort of situation, which is nice. But then you definitely get some people who are a little loopy from drugs, or maybe where the tumor is or the accident, if it's affecting part of their brain. People can have trouble speaking or sometimes they get a little weird. So I've had some fun experiences being with patients and just seeing all sorts of things. And then I'll get my blood sugars every 6 hours. And it's kind of just the same tasks over and over and over again, unless something crazy happens. I have been in a few rooms where I'm holding someone down for hours on end and trying not to get hit and punched and spat at and all that kind of thing. But this kind of leads into the burnout where it's difficult to kind of have that balance of working with patients who aren't with it and they don't know what's going on and you're empathetic for them, but also it can just be so draining to be put in that situation over and over again. No one wants to get kicked in the face by an old guy. You know, it's like not a good way to start your morning. So that can be difficult at times.
And then it feels like you're, like, I know that you've talked to me about, like, crazy things that patients have done, spitting on you, calling you names, things like that, because they're not coherent. But it doesn't make it feel any less respected after you just bathed them and you're taking care of them. And that's the oath you take, though, right? It's like, it's part of what you signed up for. It's hard.
We've had a lot of very, very sick patients recently, and for some reason it always kind of happens around the holidays. And I had a very, very bad day at work where I walked into a patient's room, and you know what? He was pretty with it. I walked in there, he was on the toilet, and he had been, I don't know if this is something you can say on the podcast, but he was sticking his own fingers up his butt to get his poop out, and he was rubbing it all over the walls because he couldn't find the toilet paper, and it was just everywhere. And I had just already had such a bad day, and I was like, you have to be kidding me. I was like, why are you doing that? And he's like, I can't get the poop out unless I do that. And I'm like, sir, you have diarrhea. I think it's already coming out enough. I don't think we need to be taking up there. But the little things like that kind of really, I think you guys were talking once about books and the things that like snap you out of it. I get that in my job sometimes where I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Yeah. And why am I here right now? Yeah. And I also think it's interesting being so young, like you asked, being young in this healthcare world is interesting because after 7 p.m., the hospital is run by a bunch of 23-year-olds. Like, it's really just kind of utter chaos. And I think it's a strange dynamic to be part of a healthcare team when people are older than you. And just, I don't know, I understand that maybe a 40-year-old man doesn't want 23-year-old girl to come on in there and get him all washed up and clean out his Foley catheter and things like that. So sometimes the power dynamic can be a little interesting and just trying to give people as much respect as possible while still doing my job.
My question was that, like, because of the power dynamic, a lot of your patients are obviously older than you. Like, I feel, correct me if I'm wrong, but more frequently you're working with people that are older than you, like patient-wise. And I had a roommate who was in float pool at the same hospital, and she came home one day and she was laughing about it. And I don't know if that was like a coping thing or whatever, but she was laughing about how she had a patient who, when she came, she was a sitter, which basically, like, you just have to sit and watch somebody because they can't be left alone for whatever reason that may be. And he was a felon and she had to sit. And she was 22 at the time, and this man was quite a bit older than her. And she's like a beautiful young girl on top of being worldly smart. And she was sitting there watching him. That was her job. And she was like, I'm not going to engage. He was provoking her, a lot of things. And she was like, I'm just going to do my job. I'm just going to do my job. And he started, while she was in the room, touching himself inappropriately, staring at her. And unfortunately, her job description is, unless somebody takes over, I have to sit here and watch you, and I am responsible for you. And her frustration wasn't even like that he was doing that. It was the whole, like, I have to keep telling myself in my head over and over again, my job is that I have to be responsible for you. I have to protect you. You are in my care. Because even though you're a CNA and maybe it's not a doctor, maybe it's not a nurse, like, a degree of responsibility is on you.
Oh, for sure.
And so when she told me that story, I just couldn't, this is my question, I couldn't understand how your knee-jerk reaction is not immediately to be like, do you understand that I am sitting here wiping your fucking ass for you, and I am watching you because you are a danger to yourself or others, or because you are medicated and can't be left alone, or because of X, Y, and Z, and you are so disturbed and disgusted. And even this person, like, this could happen if he wasn't a felon. It has nothing to do with that. But on top of, he was so much older than her, and she knew based on his chart he was a felon, and that made her feel like he was a danger, and she's younger than him. Then you, like, how do you deal with something like that at our age and how young you are?
I think it's really easy in my experience to kind of compartmentalize myself inside of a patient's room versus outside of a patient's room. Like, when I'm with a coworker and we're away from family and patients, I can be like, man, that sucked. I do not like being in that room. This person's inappropriate. They're rude. They're disrespectful. But it's just part of the job description is you kind of got to lock in when you go in the room and just put a smile on your face. And also, not in that scenario, because that's gross. People are always going to be the worst version of themselves when they're going through something traumatic. You know, you have a brain tumor and you're getting that taken out. That's scary. Or your son just got in a car accident and you're there. So I try to give people a lot of grace because they're just never going to be the best versions of themselves. And I could never understand what it would be like to be in that exact situation. Even if they're the rudest patient in the entire world, just slapping a smile on your face and trying your best to cheer them up is really all I can do, I feel like.
Yeah. I think it's hard, though, because I think that when people come in to see you, and I know I've had this experience in the past, they're coming to see you for not, like, if they're seeing you, it's like not a good day for them, right?
Yeah.
But that's your whole life, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's your whole career, is you seeing people on some of the worst days of their life. And I think it's so hard because I think it's interesting, and I wonder if you feel similarly, like going from patient to the other side of things. And it's interesting hearing you talk about this because being a patient is like one thing where I've had doctors where I'm just like, oh my God, like I feel like they just can't give me the time of day. And like I'm not a priority to them because I'm not going through as bad things as other people, but I'm experiencing these things too. And like I want to be treated with care. But then at the same time, like these healthcare workers, like you're seeing hundreds of people a day. And like all of these people are probably being and you do have to compartmentalize and almost like put up a wall of like, I can't.
Like desensitization.
Yeah. And like I can't even imagine how hard that is.
I found that it's always the little things that make people feel human that kind of foster those connections that are so important. Because even if I can only have time to spend 3 minutes in a room, if I can just let them know that I see them and just make them feel more human, I feel as if that has a better outcome. Because doctors are busy, right? Sometimes I can only be in the room for 5 minutes, but I've been in the room when doctors are in there, and I can tell when, not that doctors don't care about their patients, they definitely do, but I can tell the ones that kind of take that extra step to make their patients feel seen versus the ones who are there strictly to treat. So I think from the perspective of a CNA, it's given me the ability to know what kind of physician I want to be, and the things that I want to do. And that also kind of segues into burnout. It's really hard to be in a unit. Like when was I working? About 2 weeks ago, we had 7 anesthesia stats on my unit. I was there for 6 of them. I'll explain. It's okay. It is when someone loses their airway and they have to get an emergency intubation. So they stop breathing for themselves. We have to quickly put a tube in to get the machine breathing for them. So just very, very sick people. People were dying left and right. And it's really cold outside. And I feel like it was winter break. None of my friends were here. It's dark out. It gets really hard at times to kind of remember why you were doing, why you're here and why you're doing these things, why you're putting yourself through these situations. But I had a patient who I really connected with back in October, and she got sent off to rehab, could barely walk, could barely talk. She was trached. She walked to the unit, and I was on my break, and someone was like, oh, so-and-so's here. It's like, wait, what? I walk out, and she's there with her walker, and she gave me a big hug, and I did not think that she was home. So it was kind of those little things. I think you said this on your podcast once. It was like one of those moments where I was like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. It's never going to be easy, but it's those little moments of clarity of like, I made such an impact on this person's life, even though as a CNA, you don't have direct power over their care. I was giving her bubble baths in bed and helping her walk, you know?
But still.
But it's like
thankless job.
Yeah, exactly. And it's those kind of moments where I'm like, okay, this is why I'm putting myself through all of this.
And I also think that people really underestimate the value and the power of human connection. Like,
for sure,
there's something so powerful about being able to be there and be present with somebody in a room, and for you to help them through that and to make them feel human in these very like scary situations, and they don't know what's happening and it's overwhelming and hospitals are sterile and they want to go home and all these different things. And so the fact that you do offer that. All right, we got slightly cut off because the camera died, but I was just going to tell you that I think it's the value of human connection is like the ultimate thing that people really need, especially in times of crisis. And I think that you being willing to really go the extra mile and do that, and so many nurses and doctors that do, is just like really speaks to how amazing of a doctor you're going to be.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
That's so in terms of like your future and how you see yourself in healthcare, so you're going to go to med school. Do you have like an idea of like what type of doctor you want to be, or has your job given you any insight into like how you would like to like spend your time?
Yeah. So my job has taught me that I do not want to be a neurosurgeon. The insane amount of years of residency you have to do, and just seeing those residents there every single time I'm there, I'm like, do you guys ever sleep? The answer is no, they don't. I'm pretty all over the board. Every time I shadow a physician, I fall in love with it.
Yeah.
I really like radiology. And I also really like trauma, which I know are very two opposite ends of the spectrum. Radiology is like reading x-rays. I'm very interested in trauma just because I tend to lean towards the cases that come into the ICU that are accidents. I just think it's really fascinating. I don't know. I'm kind of all over the board, but there's so many years that you go through all of your rotations in med school, and I think that I'll be able to really figure out my calling once I'm there. So I'm kind of keeping an open mind and just seeing whatever path I'm led down, and just kind of going with the flow.
Yeah.
I got in, so it's like, no.
It's really cool. Like, you're like a baby doctor.
Yeah,
and like, I can't wait until hopefully we can bring you back on the podcast and you're like,
that'd be amazing.
First doctor.
Yeah, that'd be so insane.
It's such an exciting moment, and it's so cool to be able to like chase your dreams, as you know. And I think it's so impressive that you've done all these amazing things and that you You're still working. You're gonna work at the hospital until you go to med school, right? Yeah. Okay. That's amazing. So yeah. Also, Syd had the great idea of putting in a link that can donate to nurses that need it. Yeah, if you want to speak on that.
Yeah. I was just going to say that Afton is one of many people working a thankless job right now, whether it's CNAs, whether it's nurses, whether it's MAs on staff. There's, especially in Wisconsin right now, we were dealing with a huge cold front and it was really cold, and there's countless worldly crises going on right now that healthcare is getting the brunt of. And so, yeah, we want to support the people that want to go on the journey that you're going on and like do medical school, because that's just like the world needs people like good nurses and good physicians that like really care about taking care of people. So we'll put some resources in if you feel compelled to like just donate or learn more. And we can't wait till we can have Afton back as Dr.
Or just a med student too.
Yeah, we're just so excited.
Or in another month when we read all the books.
Yeah. And Afton has supported the podcast since the day it came out and watched every single episode. So having her like as the first person to come speak just feels really special that it's so full circle. She sends us her thoughts every week. And I just love that she's here.
It's so fun.
It's like too meta of me to send my thoughts to this podcast.
Literally, yeah.
How about other girl? You let on how to side.
We broke the fourth wall.
Yeah,
here.
we did.
And yeah, we're so grateful you're here.
Yes.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, of course. Any final like advice that you would give to somebody that's like on your journey or is about to become a CNA or in the healthcare field in general?
I feel like for specifically people who are pre-med, it's really important to just note that everyone's on their own path. Everyone is going to get there in a different way. People will be shoving all of these different ideas down your throats that you need to get this many research hours, this many patient care hours, this class, this whatever. At the end of the day, you just need, patient care and research and those things are important, but the way that you go about that can be unique to you and unique to your interests. And I feel as if the things that are best received in a med school interview are always the things that you are passionate about, whether or not that's necessarily something that has to do directly with healthcare. Just they want passionate people. So just be passionate and be caring and you'll do great.
Yay! Well, thank you so much for coming on. We're so happy that you came and gave us your time. And let us know in the comments how you feel if you're in the healthcare world and, you know, all the things. So as always, this is for you, and we'll see you in the next chapter.
Yeah, see you in the next chapter. We love you. Bye.
Hey.
Book of the month time.
Book of the month time.
Okay, so we were right. That's all. That's the first thing I want to say is that we were right. Because come on, like how can we not?
Never happens to me. That never happens to me.
Really?
I'm never right. Well, okay, that's actually a lie. I'm never right when it's books that are designated thriller mystery. I've gotten them pretty much always right, which is why I used to not read that genre, except for the two most recent that I've read. So then I was like, whatever. But this, I think I was able to get because it was, I felt really smart.
Well, I think there was also just like hints and clues along the way, and I think a lot of the story didn't rely on it just being a mystery. So like by the end, like the clue, you were figuring out the clues at the same time that the main character was, like all these different things.
Yeah.
Anyways, the question about the bathtub was answered, and I wrote that was like one of the first things that I asked about, like how did it take people so long to find her, whatever. Tate asked, I think Reese or Luis about that, so that was answered for me. And then like I wrote that I was suddenly feeling suspicious of everybody in the book. Like I literally started feeling like I was like, what is going on? Is this how him and Ren will be? When he like first got attacked and got like shoved down the stairs, I was like, is this how him and Ren are going to be together forever? Like he's going to die. And then I have my other opinions, which is common sense continue. This is like my stream of consciousness about it. Can I just jump right into that? Or I feel like I just jumped right into that without asking you first.
No, you can say whatever you want, girl.
Okay. So I said common sense continually escapes character. I'm not saying I trust the police in this story, but I am saying that his plan is stupid to me. Like the fact that he didn't go to the police at all after he got shoved down the stairs is baffling to me. What the hell? Okay. So then I said, if Oscar doesn't go with him after he gets attacked and he's like, they're standing in the festival and they're like, okay, and he's like, I need to go back to the house. I have to follow Ren. And I'm like totally down for that plan. And I said, if Oscar doesn't go with him, I'm going to be so annoyed. Literally, next line that I wrote is, bro, do we never learn? Always take someone with you. I felt a prickle of foreboding. Yeah, no shit. you feel it now. That's when you feel it. You feel it now. And then I said, you've been falling in love with a ghost who was murdered for a while now. How is this the first time you felt a prickle of foreboding? When you're like, are you serious? And then she goes, and then she said, he said he thought about rescuing his phone from the basement. Thought about it.
The cellar.
He thought about rescuing your 2025 expensive phone because you're a trust fund baby that has all of the technology in the world and an ability to connect to a cell tower, and you just thought about it. You didn't act on that impulse. That would be the first thing I fucking ran for. And he left the cat. I cannot believe he left. I would have taken my cat out of there the second I got attacked ever. Okay. And then I was also thinking about the fact that when he like goes and watches the murder in the bathroom, she locked the door. And so then I thought about if it was a locked door and he kicked the door in, then how would the police not think that that was a murder? Because that would not, that like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Like the fact that the door is broken in and then nobody thought about, I don't know. Anyways, those were my opinions.
Wait,
and then, yeah.
Well, for as far as the bathroom door thing, the way I interpreted that is because then they said that the door stopped, the knob stopped turning, and then they said it got quiet, and then the door burst open. But I took that as like why it was quiet, that he was like using his key to open it.
Yeah.
So that's how that evaded me. But I think that's like an up to interpretation on like how deeply investigative we're gonna be. And then as far as the cat thing, when the house was blowing up and she was like, you have to save Oscar, my first thought was, where the fuck is the cat? That was my first thought. And so as soon as they included the line being like, he opened the door, she escaped, I was like, thank God. I don't even care if she ends up in the woods. She's out of the burning house. Like, I don't even care anymore. Also, okay, wait, let me pull up my notes. Okay, I feel like I have a really hard time predicting endings in thriller mysteries because I always feel like I feel like I'm really good at predicting books and thriller mysteries because I think in thriller mystery, sometimes they lack the literary qualities that a normal novel does. They don't like embrace the lush, flowery writing style of a normal novel.
Sure.
So sometimes I think it's easier to guess because you're not like shrouded by this like writing style. So that's why I don't read them, because I'm really good at guessing them. But in typical novels, I'm really bad at guessing it. And like just in a non-thriller mystery, like a romance, like I feel like it's always the basic ending. And I just didn't think it was going to happen that way, because in my head, I'm like, oh, well, that's too easy. Oh, well, it's not going to be that. It's too easy. So this really got me because I got it right. And I like don't even know what genre we're classifying this as. And I felt really proud that I got it right. Also, I think it would have been a tragedy if they had not included the portion in which Oscar sees Ren. I think that they did include that because that made it that not only does he love his best friend enough to like, just if you jump off a bridge, I will too. Like if you want to be crazy, I will too. But seeing her made it real to him, and it took this book from supernatural to real. And it made it like, oh, this is not this guy that suffered this trauma, and now like this is how he believes in things, and this is what his sister said, and he's the one person on earth that is capable of such a thing. And it very, very real of like, oh, maybe we don't understand what goes on in the world, and maybe we are. Like all the questions Oscar had, I think had they not included that, it would have been such a disservice to the book. So I like really, really appreciated that.
I also think that that moment also solidified that Oscar now has a connection to Ren in a sense. So that means that I felt like Tate was therefore going to be able to talk to Oscar about it more deeply. Like, you know, like I felt like because he had like this connection to him, I was like, oh, okay, now you get it kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, you've seen her, you know, like, yeah.
Also, that one degree of separation between Oscar and Ren, and then Tate and Ren, had always been that Oscar wasn't able to see her. And the fact that in like Tate's largest moment of weakness, like almost death, that Oscar was able to see her, I think it just would have been such a disservice if the book hadn't included that.
Totally.
I also really appreciated that they did not that we didn't hear from Luis or Reese why they killed her. We heard it from like the narrator and Oscar through like their discovery of the information, because I think getting their testimonial would have really cheapened it. Like I think having when Luis dropped to her knees and was like, it wasn't supposed to happen that way. I think if she had explained to him and tried to justify herself to him or to the police and like had told the story from her perspective instead of us gleaning that information from the other characters, I just think it would have cheapened it. It would have been very true crime to me. And I just appreciated that they kept it the main characters. I think that's like what made it not a mystery thriller in my head. Like,
totally. But
you know what
I
I mean?
also think that that when they kept going at Oscar and Tate, like they just would not Luis would not give up. Luis would not give up. All of them were just like really not giving up. I was like, okay, then the reason that you tried to kill Ren and the reason that you're trying to kill them has to be a reason that's beyond like I knew it had to do with money because it's just like that brings out
Yeah.
the absolute worst in people. And so I think it's so
Yeah.
interesting the way that they found it out. And then after I was like, okay, that makes sense why they would want to keep. But then at the same time, I was like, do you have no self-preservation? Like, why would you? I don't know.
Totally. I thought that was I thought that was really good, like, writing for somebody who is the reader. Like, I just thought that that was like such a small thing that they did. I also, one of the biggest clues for me was when obviously he got knocked down the stairs, then he ran to the cabin to go ask for the cell phone. And the fact that her shock was, oh my God, you're bleeding, this and that. But then when her husband was like, who is it? Who is it? And she was like, it's just Tate. Like, I could hear the switch. Like, I could picture her face being like, oh, it's just Tate. Like, that's how I pictured that interaction going.
Yeah.
That was, like, the signifier of, like, it's 100% them to me.
Totally.
Because
totally.
if you're her, and this is the property that she made such a big fuss about, like, the property manager doesn't even want people staying here, like, you're not even really supposed to be here, like, we clean, we do everything. If he's coming over to you, bleeding, maybe there's an accident at the house, I just feel like your first instinct is like, oh my God, we either have to call the property manager, we have to call the police department. And the fact that she literally gave him the reaction he wanted of being like, to clear her name, and then she couldn't even feign, like, to continue that beyond that initial reaction just was really interesting to me. And then my last note that I think is funny is, like, I am not like a historically big Nicholas Sparks fan. Like, I've read his work, I've watched the movies, like, and I think he's extremely talented, but it's just like, yeah, that's point blank. But I do know that he's very known for his love stories with very real endings that, like, are very, like, very Romeo and Juliet tragic style sometimes, whatever. And I read the acknowledgement for this book, and he says on the first line that it's going to come to a shock as some people, but my favorite genre is supernatural, and the first book I ever tried to write was a horror book, like when he was first trying to become an author. And I thought that was so interesting because when I picked this book up and we were talking about this, I thought it was so unique that he did this kind of story.
Yeah.
And I thought that the drive for it to transcend a normal love story was going to come from the other author because I know that aligns more with his work. And so to find out that this is actually, like, something he was, like, really interested in and has wanted to do his entire career, but he's just been so successful in a different avenue was crazy. I was like, no wonder it was so well done. Like, it was really I also don't like co-writes. I don't love a co-author moment. Sometimes I think you can literally tell when the voice switches. I thought this was pretty seamless. Like, I thought it was really incredible for a co-write.
I've also talked to authors that have come to, like, my classes and stuff and talked to me and been like, if you are ever offered in a circumstance in which you are co-writing a novel with somebody else, say no for your own sanity. So I know that it's not fun to, like, work with somebody because writing is such a solitary experience for better or for worse, but it works. And so I think I was really surprised it was two authors and it was so seamless. There was no part of it that I didn't feel like was great. I felt like Ren's character completely shifted when she, like, acknowledged that she was dead. It was like almost she had, like, this new air of, like, maturity and, like, resolution within her. I love that he was like, yeah, I'm not going to visit you. Like, maybe you'll see me in your dreams, but I'm going and, like, I'll always watch over you. And I loved the reality of that situation. It was really sad.
That's what I was going to say. They made it so real.
So real. And I liked it. You were right too. When we did all of our predictions, you were like, I think he's going to, like, this is going to be his path for falling in love with somebody else. And I guess we're kind of both right because I don't think he's going to be ever able to fully move on from her. But equally, I think he's going to try to, like, love new people and all of these different things. And yeah, and I love that he's gonna go and help this little boy in the park. Like, I thought that was such a great way
to,
I
was gonna get to
wrap it up. And yeah, and because it is such a, like, this lost soul idea, and he was a lost soul being able to help other lost souls. It's like this beautiful, like, symbiotic relationship that I think is so amazing and really well done. And I really enjoyed this book a lot more than I thought it was going to. I gave him 4 stars.
Yeah. He also talked a lot. You what?
I gave it 4 stars.
I wrote 3.75/4, like somewhere in that range. I really liked it. a lot more than I thought. I think it's so interesting the way that they did the full circle, because at the beginning he talked a lot about how he loves his sister so much and he so deeply appreciates her, but he always felt like they were so different because she saw the world a certain way and she was always knew what she was meant for, even if it wasn't a path. Like she just knew like, oh, I'm gonna do this because that's what I'm gonna do. And he just always was like, this is what I should do and this is the path. And so I think seeing him embrace the fact that he's like, I'm gonna do yoga and I'm not gonna be a workaholic and there's another lost soul out there and fuck it, maybe I should go outside and see if they're okay, was the way that they developed the characters so that didn't feel like this crazy stark change of like,
Totally.
OMG, and now the sun has shining and I'm a whole new person and I'm no longer depressed. Like, I think the way they did it was so well developed. Also, the mentioning of like weaning off of his medications and like this thing, like they really thought about such details that if they weren't there would have made the character development so much less significant, I think.
Totally. I completely agree with you. So, I loved this book. Well, the next book that we're going to read, if you're along for this journey, if you're enjoying Book of the Month, we're so appreciative. And if any of your thoughts, please let us know. It was such a great book. I loved it. I was so pulled by it. I know Syd was too. The next book we're going to read is kind of we're trying to like touch into different genres so that we can kind of get a sense of what everybody feels and all the things. But anyways, the next book we're reading is God of the Woods by Liz Moore, which kind of went a little bit viral on TikTok, which me and Syd try to stay away from. But I will say that Syd went to a bookstore, found the book, bought it, and then I love to twin with her in every way possible. So I said, I'm surely going to get the book too. And then I read the back and I was like, I actually think it's perfect for Book of the Month, Syd. Like, would you be down to read it? And she said yes for Book of the Month. So now we're reading this, which is so exciting.
Yes.
And there is 96.
This one's a bit of a longer one, but you have a whole month.
You have a whole month. Syd and I, we don't really have a whole month to read that one, but we're gonna get through it nonetheless. We kind of have a full whatever. We're gonna figure it out. But anyways, there's 96 chapters, so that means you're reading 24 chapters per week, and it seems like it's broken up into sections of each child. I'm gonna listen to it on my way to school. Listening to it's great. Yeah, so I think that's all we have. Pick up God of the Woods. Preferably, if you pick it up from a small bookstore, you win like extra brownie points and just like good karma. And from your local bookstore, go and hang out with the owners. I'm sure they would love to have you and their spaces. And then, we'll see you in a little while.
We'll see you next week.
We'll see you next week. Oh my God, wait, when this video goes out, Syd, I see you like 2 days later.
That's crazy. True.
Okay, we love you. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.